Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This is SynthJohn and today we're going to be looking at, or talking about, I should say, about the Sex Pistols, Never Mind The Bollocks, because it's 40 years since this album was released. 40 years. Incredible, isn't it? 40 years. Time flies when you're kicking ass, I guess. So yeah, the Sex Pistols were 40 years ago were probably the most hated, notorious band on the planet. Oh yes, they stuck their fingers at the establishment. They really did. They really did, and it all stemmed really from that Bill Grundy situation. Well, basically what happened was Queen were meant to have gone on there, the Queen, the band, but EMI at the last minute, for some reason, Queen got dropped, and EMI had just signed the Sex Pistols, so he thought, oh, tell you what guys, go on the Bill Grundy show and whatever. And it's probably one of the most infamous moments in television history. You know, the tirade by Steve Jones, the guitarist, and Johnny Rotten saying shit. No, what was the rude word? Shit. Was it really? Good Lord, you frightened me to death. Go on, Chief, you've got another 5 seconds. Say something outrageous. You dirty bastard. Go on, again. You dirty fucker. What a fucking rotter. And then, of course, the next day, the newspapers, it just exploded. You know, with the headlines, Punk, call it filthy lucre. You know, and they only played 2 dates on the Anarchy in the UK tour, I think, because people were frightened by Punk. They were really frightened by it, and they couldn't get many gigs. You know, they'd have to tour. I mean, they did tour like overseas in Holland, and just because nobody wanted to, even Glasgow didn't want a piece of the Sex Pistols. That's how notorious they were. And 1977 was the year of punk, wasn't it? You know, we had all the great bands like the Adverts and the Damned and the Clash, just great stuff. And to be honest, I'm surprised they managed to record an album with so much going on. I mean, they got dropped by EMI, they got dropped by A&M. There was that situation with Sid Vicious and Bob Harris, and of course Glenn Matlock got kicked out of the band and replaced by Sid Vicious, which, in my opinion, was just an absolute big mistake. I think Vicious would have been better in his own band, you know, because he wasn't a bad singer really. I think he had the look, he had the attitude. You know, I think he would have been better as a singer in his own band. That would have been great, because unfortunately the drugs took over him, and just a tragic waste, really. Just absolute shame, innit, you know. But he did say he would never reach 21. He said that. He prophesied. He was like, oh, I'll never reach 21. And unfortunately, he was right. So that had so much going on, you know, as well. The Queen, obviously, when they got arrested on the boat on the Jubilee, and of course, Rotten got slashed. He got attacked. There's all these crazy things happening to him. I mean, they were just young kids, really, and there were all these, you know, things happening. You know, I'm surprised they managed to actually make this album. And a lot of people say that album came too late. It's hard to say, really. I mean, if they had, I mean, they could have went independent. That would have been very interesting if they had gone independent straight away. Because, I mean, the Buzzcocks, another great punk band, they released Spiral Scratch in January '77 on their own little label. So, you know, and that's where the independent record labels come from, really. I think, you know, the Buzzcocks deserve a lot of credit for that, because you had like other labels coming up, like Step Forward Records and of course Rough Trade. So they could have done it, but unfortunately they went for the big record labels, and you know they wanted, after the Bill Grundy thing, EMI didn't want to know and A&M didn't want to know. But they're lucky they got onto Virgin Records, which primarily was it wasn't really a punk label, really. It was more prog rock. You know, you had Mike Oldfield and of course a lot of the German stuff like Tangerine Dream. It was more like a hippie label. You know, it was more catered to that. So Richard Branson having the Sex Pistols was like a big, you know, it was a big boom for him, you know. So yeah, Never Mind the Bollocks came out 40 years ago, 28th of October 1977, and it was recorded in Wessex Studios, and it was recorded around the same time as Queen were doing News of the World, round about the same time. And in fact, News of the World was released on the same day as Never Mind the Bollocks. So some interesting stuff there. And there's one of the most infamous stories is when Sid Vicious, just completely pissed out of his head, goes into the studio and says to Freddie, he's like, "Hey Freddie, have you succeeded in bringing ballet to the masses?" And Freddie Mercury goes, he's on the piano going, "Well, we're trying, Simon Ferocious, my dear," and fucking kicked him out. Just fucking hell. Well, you know, just a great story that, isn't it? What a great story. So yeah, they were recorded in Wessex Studios, or of course produced by Chris Thomas, you know, great producer, produced Roxy Music, Pretenders, Pulp, Sadistic Mika band, Japanese band, worth checking out. They're sort of hard glam rock, experimental sort of band, worth checking out. And he produced the Black Ship album of the Sadistic Mika band, so that's worth checking out. So yeah, Chris Thomas produced the album, and a lot of people say it's overproduced. I don't know. Me personally, I love it, you know, and I love Spunk as well, you know, because Spunk was a bootleg version, and of course on there you got Glenn Matlock, and Glenn Mack's bass playing on Spunk is fantastic, you know. To lose Glenn Matlock was, he wrote Pretty Vacant, you know, he just a great songwriter, and unfortunately he couldn't get on with Johnny Rotten. He couldn't get on with him, you know, big clash of personalities. But Glenn Matlock, bass playing on Spunk is just, you know, it's just fantastic. You know, he has that Ronnie Lane, you know, McCartney style. You know, he really does have that style, which is a great style to have, really great style. So yeah, so Glenn Matlock, wasn't on Never Mind the Bollocks, but I did hear that they did try and get him back. I don't know if that's rumor or not, but I'm sure I heard that they tried to get him back as a session musician on the album, because Steve Jones pretty much had to do all the bass lines himself, because Sid Vicious just couldn't play bass to save your life or the planet Earth's life. Just but I did read that in the beginning he took it quite seriously. He took the bass playing quite seriously, and then of course the fucking heroin, that horrible drug, just completely took over. And then of course you've got Nancy, Nancy, New York, New York, I'm Nancy, I'm from New York. I was a groupie for the New York Dolls. You think, oh, just the wrong woman for poor Sid. Just absolute tragedy. It is. It's just a tragedy. So yeah, Steve Jones had to do all the bass lines, but Vicious is on bodies, but buried in the mix. It is buried in the mix. It just is. And this album is a classic. There's not a death track on there. There isn't. It's full on raw, hardcore rock and roll. No bullshit, no pretentiousness, just full on raw, high energy rock and roll. Because it really is a rock and roll album. Yes, I know it's punk, but it's rock and roll. It's just really fucking awesome rock and roll. Holidays in the Sun, great song. Bodies is my favourite. Just fucking full on relentless. It's just relentless. It really is. Pretty Vacant, God Save the Queen, New York, 17, No Feelings, Submission. Just great tracks. It's not just one of the best punk albums of all time. It's one of the greatest music albums of all time. It just really is. It just oozes attitude. You look at the band today. They're all a bunch of fucking pussy whipped millennial morons. These guys were one of the few to speak out against the establishment and royalty. Before them, who was doing that? I don't know anyone that was speaking against royalty and the government. It's like anarchy in the UK. It's still relevant today. With all the fucking nonsense going on now with ISIS and fucking all that fucking crap. It's just, unfortunately, it's just still relevant, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's still relevant to this day, and unless things change, it'll always be that. Like you listen to the lyrics of Anarchy in the UK. Is it the IRA? Is it the UDA? You could easily replace that. Is it ISIS? Is it Syria? Is it Is it North Korea? It's just absolutely still relevant. And God Save the Queen still relevant. Fucking royalty. I can't stick them. Just quite frankly a burden on all of us. I can't understand why people I just can't understand why people. I just can't understand why people like royalty. Bottom line is, they don't give a fuck about us. They never done a day's work in their lives. I bet the Queen's never wiped her own ass. I bet she hasn't. She gets a servant to do it for her. Oh, the royal arse is clean, your highness. You know? So it's still relevant. Sadly, the Sex Pistols are still... We need the Sex Pistols more than ever. We need a fucking band that's going to say, look, all this shit with ISIS and fucking North Korea and Donald Trump, it's just fucking bollocks. Just fucking bollocks. Because Britain in the 1970s, people say, oh, you know, Britain in the 1970s, yeah, it was great and people were more friendlier. Yeah, people were more friendlier and there was more communities and stuff, but you had the fucking 3-day week. The 3-day week. You know, you're sitting in candlelight and you can't see a fucking thing and you're tripping over your carpet. You know. Just, you know, and everyone was on strike. Even the dead didn't get buried. You know, even the dead couldn't have peace in the sense. It was just a fucking mess. Absolute mess it was. And then you had fucking bands like all that fucking bands like ELP and Yes and you know, punk was a perfect antidote. It's a perfect antidote to it all. You know. I much prefer late 70s music to the early 70s. The early 70s just some of it's good, but it's like you just want to. I just want to. Well, I just don't want to know about it, you know. So yeah. And an interesting fact with this copy I've got is that it doesn't. It's a misprint. It doesn't have Submission on there on the back cover. Now, Submission is on you though. Submission is on this copy, but doesn't tell you there. It's like a misprint. Now I don't know what. You know, if somebody could let me know what copy of this album I got, because I'm pretty sure that I read initially a lot of the copies didn't. There was a mistake. There was a mistake. So let me know if you know what version of this album is. What version it is. So yeah, never mind the bollocks. They had to go to court for the use of the word bollocks. They were trying to get done for obscenity. A lot of the Virgin stores were like, you know, police seizing them, saying, oh, this is obscene. Oh. But they went to court. Pistols went to court, and they said, well, bollocks is a word in an English dictionary meaning nonsense. So the judge was like, I reluctantly say that you can keep the title. So 3 cheers for democracy. Yay! 3 cheers for democracy, innit? So yeah, never mind the bollocks. You know, one of my favourite albums. It just classic. It's not a bad track on you. And the amount of times this has been reissued is absolutely staggering. I don't know. It's probably hundreds of times now. No, they did. It's like they're gonna release a 40th package, I think, on vinyl and CD. And you're thinking, how many fucking more mixes are there of Anarchy in the UK? Because I know Chris Thomas done a lot of guitar dubs on Steve Drum's Steve Jones's guitars, but I just and with the Sex Pistols, it's not just this album. They have bootlegs of just live stuff from Manchester and when they played Manchester in '76 and Spunk and No Future UK. They just seem to have so many bootlegs of all of the same songs. I don't know any other band that has all these bootlegs. maybe Hawkwind at a push, but I mean, in their lifetime, the Pistols only wrote about 12. At the top of my head, they only wrote 12 songs, and they get all these bootlegs, and just fantastic. And I'm just glad they got glad they got to make this album, considering all the circumstances back in the, you know, for the notoriety. Because 2 months, well, 3 months after this album was released, they were gone. Pistols were gone. Pistols exploded and gone. And then of course they reformed in '96, and pretty much, I mean, Filthy Lucre, what a fucking great live album that is. Just absolutely fantastic. Oh, one of the best live albums you will ever hear. And they put all the naysayers to rest, didn't they? Calling them old farts and bloated old farts and all that shit. But give me the Sex Pistols. Give me the Sex Pistols at 100 in Zimmer frames than fucking any of the bands today. Because the bands of today, they're not saying anything constructive. They're not. It's all well and good having escapism. Escapism is good, but nobody's talking about the world and what's going on. Nobody. I can't think of anyone modern. You know, it's like, you know, unless they're updating their Facebook statuses or got their head buried in their phones, they just don't give a fuck. They just don't give. Nobody in the world it seems like nobody in the world has got any compassion. You know. I tell you what, music, modern music needs a fucking enema. It just does. It needs something like the Sex Pistols. Not necessarily the same thing, but it needs someone like them just to say, look, this is fucking shit. You know, I want to talk about it. You know, just, you know, and talking of as I was talking about Filthy Lucre. Huddersfield, when the Pistols play Huddersfield, you know, because there's a documentary on that, Never Mind the Balls, which is a fantastic documentary, and it just shows the Pistols to be in a fantastic light, you know, helping out the striking firemen, you know, I just wish it was released, you know, as a live album. That'd be good. It'd be great. But you know, who knows? Who knows? Hopefully, I hope so. Really do. I really do hope so. So yeah, never mind the bollocks. Never mind the newspapers. Never mind the Filthy Lucre. Never mind the bollocks. You know, buy this fucking album. You won't regret it. You will not regret it, you know. If you consider yourself a punk fan and you haven't got this album, you need your head examined. You really do. You really do. You just really, 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 really do. So, yeah. Yes, I think I waffled on enough. Really waffled on enough. So yeah, 40 years of Never Mind the Bollocks. Great, just great. And I'll be blasting this. Definitely. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you've got this far, you probably fucking gave up after 2 minutes, but for those who stuck with me, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.